Hey everyone, and welcome to Taboola's session. My name is Rachel Zalta, and I'm going to be talking to you about native from the psychological perspective. Okay, so let's get started. I'll start with just introducing myself quickly. So I am today Taboola's lead of the creative shop, which is basically a team that helps our top clients with anything that has to do with their creative. I have an MA in social psychology. My focus was on online behavior and persuasion. I've been at Taboola for quite a while. And my job is basically to study online behavior, understand what people are clicking on and why, and then, of course, help our clients based on those insights. So before I get started, I want to ask you guys to think about this question. How many brands do you think you are exposed to in one day in 24 hours? And by brand, it could obviously be an ad, but it can also be just a logo. So think of a number, and meanwhile, I'll show you the answer. So according to the American Marketing Association, we are exposed to 10,000 brand messages in one day. And when I saw this number, I was like, what could this even be? That's a crazy number. When I started thinking about it and calculating it, it started making a little bit of sense. I invite you guys to look around and see the different brands that you are exposed to at this moment. What this means for the consumer is that it could be sometimes overwhelming. What it means for a marketer is that we need to work really hard to get our message across. So in Taboola, when we talk about how to get our message across in the most effective way, we talk about two main things. First of all, the creative. So what kind of image or what kind of video do you want to use in order to be most successful? And the second is the context. So where do you want to put that video in order for it to succeed? And it doesn't even matter where you put it. So we'll start with the creative. And I'll start with this, which is Taboola Trends, or trends.taboola.com. You can all find it there. This is basically a resource that Taboola put together, which shows us exactly what kinds of creatives are working well right now. So we have it for images, for titles, and we also have it for video, which is going to be my focus today. So you could look at things like our black and white videos doing better than colorful videos, our videos taken in the winter doing better than the summer, and you can see the effect on both the completion rate and the viewability rate here. So feel free to take a look at this. This updates every month because what we found was that the online behavior is changing pretty often. So we want to give our advertisers the most recent data. And I guess the second and most important thing after looking at data is understanding the concept of native. So if you are here to advertise on any platform, every one of them will tell you to be native to their platform. So if you're going to advertise on Instagram, you're going to want to look like the organic content on Instagram. So really beautiful staged pictures and videos are going to work best. On Taboola or on native, you want to be native to the news environment or the premium publisher environment. The kinds of videos and images that are going to work best are the ones that feel more real, more newsworthy, and more authentic. So keep this in mind when you put together your creatives. And have everything from sponsored content, which is mostly for performance advertisers, which usually include like images and titles and descriptions and CPAs, and can also include performance video. Right now, I'm going to be talking about our branded video product. So when we think about video, I like to start with this study, or this is, I guess, the second study that I'm already talking about. So in this study, what they tried to do is try to get more people to use the stairs as opposed to the escalator. And the way that they did that is by gamifying the stairs and making it more fun. So they made it into this huge piano where actually when you stepped on different steps, it actually produced music, which is kind of cool. And what they found is that in the day that it was more fun for people, they used the stairs 66% more. So, you know, the first, and I don't know, it's a pretty basic thing. I'm sure you guys all know this, but if you're trying to think about how to succeed in video advertising, make sure to make your videos fun. Because if they're fun, then people are just going to watch them just because it's fun and entertaining. And this is something that, is based on data, but I feel like we don't even need the data. We all kind of know this. And then, we look at a lot of eye tracking at Taboola. So another thing to keep in mind is what people are looking at in the video that you're recommending. So in this H&M video, if you look at where the dots are, or where the person that was viewing this was looking, they're mostly looking at faces. And some people will come in and say like, wait, they're looking at faces. That's not so good for us, because if you're H&M, you want to sell the clothing, right? And people aren't even looking at the clothing. But actually, this is a pretty successful creative for H&M, and mostly because the point of this video, and most videos for awareness or for brands, is to create a bond or some kind of emotional connection between the viewer and the brand. And that happens a lot when we're able to connect with people. We're able to see their faces and see their expressions. So similar to this, if we look at videos with animals, our eyes will always go towards those faces and eyes of those animals, these very cute animals. So again, this creates that bond that we spoke about before. And this bond translates to, real activity in the end of the day. And this is another study that I like to call the case of the ugly chicken. And in this study, they divided the participants into two groups. They told group number one that this chicken over here, which is like a regular chicken, is healthier. And this chicken on the right, which they told them was a genetically engineered chicken, was actually more delicious or more tasty than the regular chicken. And then they took group number two and they told them the exact opposite. They told them that the natural chicken is tastier and the genetically engineered chicken was healthier. And at the end, they asked the participants to choose which chicken they'd like to eat. And what they found was that almost all of the participants chose not the healthy or the tasty chicken, but the pretty chicken. So what this means is that the emotional connection that we have towards a brand or towards a product is actually much more important than the facts a lot of time that we get about that specific product. So even if the professionals told us that it's healthier or that it's tastier, no one actually cares. All they care about is how they feel about that brand. And this is a really interesting study that was conducted on a lot of platforms and at Taboola as well. And it was definitely true at the beginning of COVID, and it's kind of true now too. And it is that ads are kind of practicing social distancing. And I don't know if you guys feel this, but when I watch movies these days and people are like crowded or they're too close to each other, it makes me kind of like feel kind of weird. And that same thing happens in advertising. So what we found is that people in advertisements that were too close, that are hugging or kissing or very close, they actually did not work as well as like social distance ads, which is really kind of cool. So emotion is really important in how we feel about the people in the ad and about the brand itself. Another thing that's really important is motion or movement. So in this Mazda example, you can see that our eyes are always looking towards the things that are moving, and of course the faces too. And if we think about it from a behavioral or psychological or survival standpoint, it makes a lot of sense that we're always looking at things that are moving. So if I was in the jungle and I was trying to survive and there was something moving, it would be really crucial for me to notice that movement right away. And that same instinct applies online too. So if we are, on a site or scrolling down a feed, if something is moving there, then it's going to grab our attention. And in addition, what we found was that specifically videos with more movement work better than videos without as much movement. So videos of people that were tanning, sleeping, speaking, isn't so much movement, didn't work as well as videos that people were dancing, swimming, and stretching. And some advertisers will ask me, okay, but if you have people and you have movement, so what works more? What's going to grab attention more? So I guess it depends, but what we usually see is that people are actually the strongest way to attract attention. And even if there are people or things moving in the back, our eyes are always going to look towards like faces. And then one more thing is regarding authenticity. So I spoke before about being native, and being native on Taboola means being real and authentic and newsworthy. And we find that these kinds of creatives do best. This is a kind of interesting study that we ran, or data that we pulled, that looked at video ads that were really, really high quality, that were obviously like produced professionally, and video ads with normal quality. And what we found is that the video ads with normal quality actually did better. This is something that we definitely have seen in the last year. Since COVID hit, there were so many brands that started using like, real people, even their own employees in their videos, that shooting from their phones, not professionally produced at all. And these kinds of ads have been doing really, really well. And you could also try to incorporate your brand in an authentic way, especially if you're going to incorporate the brand right in the beginning. So here I have kind of put it like in the back instead of like smack in the beginning, trying to like sell their brand. They kind of try to incorporate it in an authentic way. And then one last thing that I get a lot of questions about this, about adding subtitles to a video. So what happens when there's subtitles in a video, our eye is going to kind of be split between looking at what's happening in the video and reading the subtitles. And so that on the one hand distracts us, right? And you would think if somebody's working so hard producing a video, they wouldn't want us to read the subtitles. But according to a lot of studies, brand recall is actually 92% higher for videos that were watched with subtitles. And the reason why is because different areas of our brains are actually working at the same time. So it's kind of like if you were trying to memorize something when you're back in school and you tried to memorize it with a song. What happens there, and the reason why we remember it more, is because different parts of our brain, right, like the musical part and then the verbal part, are working at the same time. And when there are different parts of our brain working at the same time, we actually remember the message more. So definitely something to keep in mind. And I mentioned that I head up the creative shop, which provides these services to top clients. This is just one example of the kinds of services that we provide. So what we could do is take a video ad that was actually made for a different platform. In this case, it was TV, and adjust it based on what we know is best. So adjust the size and the length, add a logo so that it appears throughout the whole entire video, translate the text if there is, add subtitles if there's people talking, if there are people talking, and add a end card as well. Okay, so we spoke about the video, we spoke about the creative. Now that you have a perfect creative, what are the things that you want to keep in mind in terms of the context or where you want to put that creative? So in order to talk about that, I like to talk about a man named Joshua Bell. Joshua Bell is a very famous violinist in the United States, and people would come listen to him play and pay hundreds of dollars. And one day, he took his $2.4 million violin and he brought it to the metro station in Washington, D.C., and he played his beautiful music there. And how many people do you think stopped and listened to Joshua Bell? And how much money do you think he made in that day? So you can definitely Google it. But I think it was that like 16 people stopped and listened and walked away, and he made like $18. And what this story tells us is that you can have the best brand in the world. You could have the best creative in the world. You could have the best musician in the world. But if you put it in the wrong place, it's just not going to work. So what do you want to keep in mind when you think about where you're going to place your video? So the first thing is what is called the multiple source effect. What this means is that you have two different scenarios. Scenario number one is that your best friend tells you over and over and over again that Joshua Bell is so good and you should go listen to him. Scenario number 2 is that your best friend told you he's good, but also you heard your grandma saying that he's really good, and then 2 strangers on the street were talking about him and saying that he's so good, and then 2 of your work friends were saying that he's so good. And what studies found is that you tend to believe the message much more in the second scenario, where you heard that message from multiple sources. And that same effect applies online too. So if you have a message and you have a video that you want people to see, make sure to distribute it in a variety of places, a variety of sources or websites, because that is going to strengthen that message ultimately. Another thing to keep in mind is the reputation effect. So if you didn't know Joshua Bell, but you heard that he performed in the best place to perform in your city. So what do you automatically think about him? He's probably pretty good, right? Just because of where he is before you've even heard him play. And what this teaches us is that you want to be in premium placements. So you want to be on premium websites, on the kinds of websites or sources that people trust and that people think highly of. And I'll talk soon about trust. Another thing is that if Joshua Bell was playing his music and it was, before we were talking about Washington, D.C., but if it was in New York and it was in the subway and there sometimes it's smelly, people start associating Joshua Bell with that not good smell. And so that's something that we, brands are definitely sensitive to, and we are as well. And it's something that if you want to promote your video ad, you definitely have different ways to kind of keep that brand safety and surround yourself with editorial and safe content. And I have a couple more examples. So if you are running to work in days that we actually ran to work, and you were trying to get on the subway or the train, and Joshua Bell stood in front of you and said, "You can't get in until you listen to me playing for 6 seconds." So how would you feel? Probably be really annoyed. I know I would. And even if you do listen to him play for 6 seconds, do you like him? Are you going to listen to his music later? Probably not. And so it's really important not to be interruptive. And this is based on a study that we ran with Nielsen, where we showed people the same exact ads in different placements. So we showed it on YouTube in like a pre-roll example, which you see here. And as you see from the little blue dot, which is the eye tracker, and also from Nielsen's measurements, is that people aren't looking at the video while it's playing. Some studies even show that they're looking at the countdown of the seconds, which is something that I definitely experienced. As opposed to that on feed environments where you feel like you can leave whenever you want, you don't feel like stuck. What Nielsen actually found is that people are engaging with the video ad. So that's that kind of points back to the not being interruptive and people actually choosing to watch your video ad and it having a much stronger effect. And we have a bunch of different ad experience that we developed with our partners. So we'll be on homepages, on section fronts, mid-articles, and of course on the Taboola feed, which are all non-interruptive spaces. And I mentioned trust before, so we've run this study actually before the pandemic started, during, and now as well. And what we found consistently when we ask people the question of what do you trust more, a video ad on a news site or a video ad on a social site, 80% said that they trust a video ad more if it appears on a news site. So it connects to the reputation effect, but I think it's even something else, like something a little bit more. When you trust something, it sinks in more, right? You let it in more and you're willing to engage with it more. So this is something that's definitely important to keep in mind when you think about where you want to put that creative or that video. And what Nielsen found is that when people trust more, the brand message actually has a stronger impact on us. So when they looked at the emotional response from the same exact videos on the different placements, they found that it was strongest on a non-interruptive premium news site. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope it was interesting. Feel free to reach out to me either here or on social media. My name is Rachel Zalta. I hope this was interesting and have a great rest of your day. Bye.